Council of Australia and the Sheep Meat Council of Australia. They work on a strategic plan for industry, and MLA is the doer. I quite often get told that MLA is a terrible industry representative, and I take that as a compliment, because that's not what we do. That's obviously your role with your peak industry councils. MLA don't collect the levy, so we don't have a database of who pays the levy, and we don't get all the levy. The board and how you get on the board of MLA, because it does get a lot of media coverage that it's somehow a board that is very much corporatised, and it is, because we handle a lot of money, and I have spoken to a lot of levy payers that have an expectation that we manage the money correctly. But how do you get on the MLA board? Well, you nominate for the selection committee. The levy payers at the annual AGM of MLA then vote you on to the selection committee. Year on year, we have 90+ people apply to go onto the MLA board who go through the selection committee. And then that selection committee endorses you if you go through that process and are successful to go on the MLA board. So who runs the MLA board? Or who is in control of that selection committee? There's representatives from the 3 peak industry councils which I mentioned, plus 2 grass-fed producers, a grain-fed producer and a sheep meat council producer, and the 2 MLA directors on there have no voting rights. That's the pathway to the MLA board. It is well and truly in the hands of the peak industry council and the levy-paying sector. The strategic plan that we put together, that we worked through with RMAC, was developed about looking backwards. So we developed the strategic plan through a performance review of MLA, which was the most extensive performance review of MLA has ever conducted. We came out of one of the 7 recommendations of the Senate, of the grass-fed Senate inquiry, and I'm pleased to say that MLA, for every dollar that went in, $6.20 is returned. Now, this review was done by just under 300 people from industry. The people that picked the consultants were government and industry, not MLA. We couldn't touch the review, we couldn't influence the results. There it is, and more details on the website if you'd like to go through that review. But on to the strategic plan and what MLA is to do between now and 2020. Industry set key benchmarks. Again, it's on the website. Now, the first one is around consumer and community support. One of the key benchmarks there for me as Managing Director is to ensure that 90% of Australian consumers continue to support the red meat industry and consumption of red meat. So over the next 4-year period, it currently sits at 93% of consumers trust Australian farmers. Now, to say that I must not, as Managing Director, let that fall below 90% means that we have to address the concerns of consumers around environment and animal welfare and emissions and a number of things within that pillar. The other pillars are quite self-explanatory. And again, more details on the website if you'd like to see it. But down the bottom is how much money per annum from your levies are going in to support these pillars. Some of the highlights that we've gone through over the last couple of years at MLA. The sheep vaccine Barbarax for gut-dwelling parasite commercially released. Global branding around True Aussie. We have one brand across all our global markets. The free trade agreements and MLA's involvement along with the peak industry councils in the free trade agreements, which we've been complimented on certainly by the government as a red meat industry and the outcomes that we achieved. The growth of MSA continues, now adding over $200 million to farm gate. That's a differential just in the beef industry between a carcass grading MSA and not grading. A new model for communicating to levy payers so that you influence where the R&D dollar is spent. Highlights from the marketing. The Australian Day campaign increased sales of by up to 35% over the week of Australia Day and preceding and up to. Better Beef on campaign in our target market, mums with young kids, actually saw for the first quarter in 40 years beef consumption plateau, which was up against a rise at retail level domestically of 30 to 40% and a World Health Organisation report. We won Effective Marketer of the Year, and that's, as a marketer, when I say effective, that is judged on the campaigns and the marketing and the dollars spent and the dollars reached. And we're up against some pretty powerful organisations like Coca-Cola and banks and so forth. We're doing the community engagement through Target 100. The Good Meat platform, which is talking to consumers of red meat, has received a lot of views, up to 200,000 over the last quarter. In terms of innovation, hopefully you understand what the MLA donor company is, and it's on the board there, but that's fundamentally MLA can match private funds with government funds. It's not your levies. It's government gives us, as a red meat industry, 0.05% of the gross value of agricultural production from the red meat sector to match with private funds. And we do that, and it's cost recovery. We charge for doing it. If a member of MLA is in that project, 8%, for non-members 12%, is fully cost recoverable. And it is starting to be a major portfolio for MLA, up to $130 million invested. And we're actually starting to earn money out of this portfolio now. In the last couple of years, we now have income streams from the royalties from the automation of a lot of processing plants. Microalgae, which will reduce emissions from livestock from up to 60–80%. Grown at NC, when the tide goes out, it's harvested, but it also increases productivity better than a hormonal growth promoter. Hyperspectral imaging. This is one thing that we are passionate about at MLA, and that's providing transparency when you market your livestock over the hook. It's about putting the producer in the processing plant where there is objective measures through technology. The digital platform. We will, by the end of this week, come out with a position on how your red meat industry at the moment is 20% digital, but by 2025 you'll be 80% digital. We can have all those measures coming out of the processing plants. There could be 40-odd measures times 8 million just for the beef industry, and similar for the 30-odd million lambs slaughtered in this country each year. That data's got to be held somewhere, and we're about putting that platform down now so the industry can work towards it. In market reporting, we have reported on your share as producers in the beef sector of retail price now for nearly 20 years. And there you can see that the steep rise, but there's how much of your beef product has been consumed domestically. So our markets are very quickly becoming export markets. All this is now on the MLA website. And I encourage you to go to the MLA website. It's a lot more transparent and has a lot more data on it than it's ever had before. And the next phase of that is a keyword search so that you can research all R&D projects that have been done in the past and current projects that have been done now, so that you have transparency around where your levy is spent. Just an indicator and something I found in industry, that is not the amount of foot and mouth disease in Australia, but that's the farm management deposits. I'm glad one person found that funny. I practiced that line. But in the red meat industry, something to be enormously proud of is that as a red meat industry across the nation, and I put up New South Wales there independently, we have $2.3 billion of funds under the Farm Management Deposit Scheme, which has been capped at 400,000 and then rises to 800,000 now. So if you say there's 50,000 red meat producers in Australia that have over $100,000 in gross income, 50% of those have farm management deposits, which I think is an encouraging sign for our sector. And there's a disclaimer, which says, don't sue me. So thank you very much for your time and have a wonderful conference. I think that was 10 minutes.